Hieronymous was fond of pacing back and forth from his desk to his window. It helped him think. It helped him collect and process his thoughts. He needed to process his thoughts now, but he couldn't. His feet were moving so fast, he was, quite literally, storming back and forth the few paces it took to get from one end of the room to the other. How could Tori do this? He had trusted her with so much. They had been getting along so well. She was opening up to him. He was opening up to her. He thought that their relationship might actually have a chance. How had he been so stupid? This was why he did not let anyone in. This was why he never let anyone get too close. The whole school knew about their marriage, yes, but what else had she told them about him? What other secrets had she disclosed? Their marriage was the latest bit of hot gossip, but once that faded, what then? Would the details of his past become the next topic to entertain these witless morons he was forced to teach? Had they no respect for... There's a knock on the door, but he just ignores it. It comes again, more insistently this time. Hieronymous, Potsdam calls through the door. I need to speak with you. Urgently. His hands ball into fists of rage that are shaking at his sides, but he makes no move to walk towards the door. Instead, he uses magic to slam it open. Professor Potsdam is standing there with a girl beside him. For a moment, he thinks it's Tori, before he realizes that it's Miss Cochrane. What is this? He demands as Professor Potsdam ushers the girl inside. Please tell me you have found a way to end this contract once and for all so we can expel that wretched girl. Obviously, verbal reprimands have done nothing to improve her careless disdain for the rules. Perhaps a thorough whipping would teach her to have more respect for... He pauses as Miss Cochrane's shoulders lurch forward in a sob. She refuses to meet his eyes, but he can't help but notice that her face is red, as though she had been crying. What reason did she have to be carrying on about? Was she concerned that he was going to turn his anger on her next? It's all right, dear, Professor Potsdam says gently. He's not going to hurt you. He can't help but draw back. He had been yelling, yes, but did she think he was going to resort to violence? Was he really incapable of understanding the impact that he had on students? What is going on? He demands, looking between them. Minnie has something she would like to tell you. She puts her hand on Minnie's shoulder as she tries to usher her forward, but Minnie's feet remain rooted to the spot. I'm sorry. Tears begin to slip down her cheeks again. I'm sorry. This is my fault. His eyebrows shoot up in surprise. Your fault? Minnie hesitates before she suddenly draws her shoulders up and away, scrunching her eyes closed as she refuses to look at him. I'm the one who spilled the secret, not Tori. I'm so sorry. I was talking to my roommate and it just slipped out. I didn't mean to. I didn't mean to. His eyes retreat to tiny little pinpricks in his head as he plays the scene over in his mind. I didn't, Tori exclaimed. It wasn't me. He hadn't even listened to her. He was so sure that Tori was the one who let the secret slip because Tori was the only one who knew. But that wasn't true. Minnie knew. He had been so concerned about Tori's lack of discretion that he had forgotten that there was someone else who had nothing to lose by slipping word of their marriage to the school. Hieronymous? Professor Potsdam asks quietly. Concern touched her voice, and he couldn't imagine the way he was staring at them now. He swallows hard. Is this true? Minnie nods her head up and down. I'm so sorry. Please don't be mad at Tori. I know she had feelings for you. She would never tell. She was so upset after the wedding because she was afraid that you wouldn't respect her anymore. I didn't mean to. She literally bursts into sobs, and Professor Potsdam quickly comforts her as she ushers her outside. Hieronymous turns back to the window, grabbing his hair with both hands like a madman. Fuck. 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 He remembered the way he had screamed in her face. He remembered the way she had collapsed in a heap at his feet after he told her that she should be afraid of him, that he was going to lock her away in the dungeons forever. What if he had hurt her? He still had his magic, but he had slammed her back against the wall in his rage. What if he had split the back of her head open against the wall and he had lost his magic because he was completely incapable of controlling his anger? Tori had told him that she didn't spill their secret, but he hadn't listened to her. Why hadn't he listened to her? Hieronymous? Potsdam enters the room, but he can't turn around to face her. Hieronymous, what happened? He turns around, but when he finally shows his face, he's not the adult that had spent the past 12 years working for her school. No, now he was the same 18-year-old boy asking for a job, asking for a second chance that he had no right to request. What happened? Potsdam asks, her face clearly troubled. Hieronymous, did you hurt her? I didn't mean to. The words slip out before he can stop himself, and he quickly turns away. What did you do? Potsdam demands. Is she injured? He shakes his head. I scared her. I just meant to scare her. I just meant to... Things had been going so well between them lately. They had been getting along so well. He had allowed himself to fantasize about spending Christmas together, and things had dissolved so terribly between them that, within one day, they weren't even on speaking terms. What if she never spoke to him again? He could honestly say that he deserved it. Tori deserved much, much better than the way he had treated her. You need to apologize. Potsdam's voice is firm. No. He shakes his head back and forth so fast it hurts his neck. No, I can't. I can't face her. The way she'll look at me. Why did you assume Tori spilled the secret? Potsdam asks quietly. He shakes his head back and forth again. He didn't have an answer for that. Tori had feelings for him. Tori wanted this to work. Tori had kept the rest of his secrets safe. She had just as much to lose as he did. If anything, she had more to lose. Who would want to date her now? Who would even want to be friends with her after they learned that she was married to the most hated teacher in the school? He had told her to run away and enjoy her fame, but Tori did not want to be noticed. Not that way. Minnie had essentially condemned her to 4 years of torture from her classmates, and now she had no one she could turn to. She couldn't turn to her parents. She couldn't turn to the friends that had betrayed her, and she couldn't turn to her husband who had assumed the very worst of her. Things were going so well, he whispers quietly to himself. Yes, things had been going well, which was probably why they had to end this way. Like this. He had been raised by a series of foster families, and the only person he had ever gotten close to in his life was Violet. After she died, he told himself he would never get close to anyone else ever again, so he would never have to experience that pain. He should be grateful that Tori wasn't dead, but this wasn't much better. He had told Potsdam after the wedding that he didn't want to ruin one more day of Tori's life than he had to, but it was ruined now. Completely ruined. Her reputation would never recover from this, and he only had himself to blame. You need to apologize to her, Potsdam repeats. Tomorrow morning. He nods stiffly, and she surveys him hesitantly for a moment before she heads out and leaves him to his thoughts. Slowly, he sits down at his desk and pulls out the scrying orb. He had to make sure she was okay. He was a useless husband, but at least he could do that much. He didn't think it was possible to feel any worse than he already did, but he had been wrong before. Tori lay on her bed, sobbing into her pillow, another pillow pressed over her head to try to drown out the taunts and jeers that came through the door. Why had he ever thought that she had spilled the secret? Who in their right mind would ever put themselves through this torment? He wanted to escort her up to his room to give her a reprieve from their bullying, but at this point, that might just make matters worse, and he was quite sure that Tori was not going to give him a second chance. She had forgiven him for treating her so coldly on their wedding day, but there wasn't a chance she would forgive him when he almost caused her physical harm. Words couldn't fix this. He tried to think of some big gesture he could perform to show her that he was truly, sincerely sorry for doubting her, for scaring her, but there was nothing he could do to fix this. If anything, he shouldn't fix this. He shouldn't even try. Tori was better off without him, and he was better off alone. At least, that way, he could guarantee that he would never hurt anyone, ever again.